Hey, Kath.
Hey Trace,
How's it going?
it's going well. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. It's freezing cold, and I feel like I'm in hibernation until like May, but let's see how I do.
Yeah, and we have gotten through Halloween, but the spooky season continues.
Of course. Well, it's always spooky for us.
Yes, it is always spooky for us. I feel like we've gotten a real like autumn this year. Like but I kind of expected it to warm up at some point and be like, oh God, another 75. No, that did not happen. My fountain froze on the deck the night
Oh
before
my God.
last. Yeah, I forgot to unplug it and I came out and it looked really cool because the water had still been falling, but it also was just like, yeah, you're gonna need a new fountain if you don't winterize that, you're definitely gonna need a new fountain.
Well, I was going to say, like, I think that makes them break, but hopefully
It
it,
definitely does, but it's not let's just say it's not ideal.
it's
It's not
not.
an ideal situation.
It's not, it's not. But what is ideal is that we get to share with our beloveds some more about the Bloody Mary story.
Yes.
Because if people had been tuning into our Scary Stories series leading up to the official start of spooky season, obviously it's always spooky season, but they may have heard your interpretation, your of the
Short
Bloody
story of
Mary
Bloody
story.
Mary. So I actually have a Bloody Mary mirror here as
You
well, and,
do? I'm
yeah,
not looking in it.
yeah, no, I have a bunch of mirrors here.
Of course you do.
Um, and I have one that we always used in the museum as a Bloody Mary mirror to tell the story,
Are you
kind of tell the
serious?
story. Oh yeah, it's right over there. It's broken now. It
Of
broke
course you do.
at the same time that another mirror that I have, they both broke this at exactly the same moment. And that's why they're not positioned together anymore. Mirrors are considered energy amplifiers and also portals,
Yeah.
right? Which is not to say that I necessarily think either of those things.
I don't know.
But when I was sitting here one day doing an investigation and both mirrors broke spontaneous at the same time, it kind of was like, well, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
Oh my god.
Um, and the Bloody Mary mirror is kind of like this black ornate one. And I used to have people that could stand in front of it, and I would tell this, we'd have a plaque and it would tell the story of Bloody Mary. And for anyone that doesn't know how the Bloody Mary uh, kind of folkloric urban legend works, it's very simple. There's two or three different ways that you do it. But the usual way is you stand in front of the mirror and you repeat the words Bloody Mary 3 times, and
Mm.
that calls Bloody Mary to you. And Bloody Mary is, some people it's like you have to stand in a dark bathroom or a dark room and the lights are off. You hold a candle. It really, those are all just kind of like added details, but the idea is that you look into the mirror and you call Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary's going to appear behind you. Um, there's not a whole lot of good reasons to do it. There's not a lot of like positive results when you do Bloody Mary. It is
Yeah,
one
I
of those
can't
things
imagine there
though.
would be.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why you would do it, but I I will tell you, I don't think I've ever done it. I don't think I've ever stood there and said it 3 times. Sometimes
That
it's
is
times, but
remarkable.
yeah, I don't think I've ever done it. I
Because
think
if
there's a
anybody was
part
gonna do it, it'd be you. You'd be like, "I don't think it I
well,
dare you,
I
Bloody
think
Mary."
there's a little part of me that's like, "But why would you do that?" You know, like,
I
that's
can't
just
fathom
wrong.
why
You know,
somebody
don't
would
you
test
know,
that out.
like, why would you call a demon, or a whatever?
Well, what
Um,
is she exactly,
so
in your
so
opinion, as a historian?
so from the historical perspective, there's lots of different reasons, not lots, but there's a few different reasons why the phrase Bloody Mary came into kind of our lexicon. The most and I don't know that any of them directly correlate to this mirror thing, except that lots of different cultures, and particularly Western European cultures, mirrors are covered in death, right?
Yes.
So the idea that uh, reflections, in some cases photographs, things like that, but that you would cover mirrors so that the big one was that you would cover a mirror after someone had died because you don't want the spirit to see itself in the mirror and get stuck, right? So that would be the
Okay.
idea that a spirit would be confused, a spirit would not necessarily know that they had died, see themselves in the mirror and become confused and become stuck in this realm, right? Becomes stuck in the kind of the physical realm. And so they would cover mirrors as a way of preventing that from happening. There's lots of other things where reflections and imagery are ways of trapping spirits, even spirits of the living, right? So
Ooh,
we all know about tribes that don't want to have their photos taken because, or even
yes.
the Amish, they feel like it's a craven image. But why does Bloody Mary come into it? So the most obvious one, the reason why it's Bloody Mary, is there's actually a Queen of England who was known as Bloody Mary.
Yes.
And uh, some people think it's Mary Queen of Scots. It's not, although she did die a bloody death. She died a terrible death. It's actually a Mary Tudor. And Mary Tudor
Ooh,
only reigned for 5 years. She was Henry VIII's first daughter. She was the daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. And she was a devoted, devout Catholic
yes.
at a time that it really wasn't easy to be that,
No.
right? So her mother and her father had desperately needed an heir, a male heir, because females were not seen as being capable of being governing monarchs. Even though they were seen as being monarchs from God, they were not seen as being capable of governing. And Henry VIII, I'm not sure that he was capable of producing a healthy male heir. He did have two male children in his. He had three male children that we know of in his life. His first son died at 3 weeks. He was Henry. He had a bastard son who was like Henry Fitzhenry or so Fitzroy, which was a very very openly acknowledging him as his son, who died at 17 of the sweating sickness. And then he had Prince Philip, who died of consumption, tuberculosis, something kind of, um, and he had two daughters that lived. You know, when Philip died, Philip was Henry was a devout Catholic until it didn't serve his needs, and then he broke with the church, and that's a very famous thing. He wanted to get rid of Catherine of Aragon. He wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was Protestant, secret Protestant, but in order to be able to marry her, he needed his marriage annulled, which would make Mary a bastard. It would illegitimize offspring, and it would also mean that Catherine of Aragon had lived and had been involved in an incestuous illegal marriage for 20 years.
'Cause she
And
was originally married to his older
she was
brother
originally married to Arthur, his older brother.
who died.
It's very unlikely that they consummated that marriage. And Henry didn't have a problem with it until it became, inconvenient to him. Which is not to say that he wasn't. I mean, Henry VIII was a very learned and very smart, intelligent guy, and he had actually written a treatise called "In Defense of the Church." When Luther had kind of nailed his broadsheet to the church, essentially calling for massive changes in Catholicism. Henry had written a paper, and he was granted something called Defender of the Faith by the Pope. Like he was a devout Catholic, until he realized that they were never going to grant him this annulment. He desperately wanted to get out of his marriage. He desperately wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. And he really, really wanted to have a male child that was legitimate and was capable of inheriting the throne. So that didn't work out for him. And Philip, his son with Jane Seymour, um, uh, he lived to be
There's so
13.
many wives, it's really
But
hard to
well
keep
well,
track.
Lady Jane Grey, unfortunately, is related to Bloody Mary, and she's one of the reasons why she's called Bloody Mary. So Jane Seymour has a little boy. Jane Seymour dies from complications due to childbirth. Henry dies when Philip is 7 years old. Philip is raised Protestant, so he dies thinking Philip is going to be King of England. So he's like,
Okay.
"I did all my stuff," but he had put Mary and Elizabeth into. He had legitimized both of them, even though both marriages to both of those women were considered illegitimate. He had fought and had them both declared illegitimate. He then made sure that both of those women were seen as legitimate heirs to him. Philip is a sickly child. He's devoutly Protestant and like a little bit of a, know-it-all. Um, he dies at 15, and uh, Mary is a devout Catholic, an absolute devout Catholic, and so and Elizabeth is whatever you need me to be. Like I could lean Catholic, I could lean Protestant. I just don't want to die, and that's kind of the way it is. Although she would her reign would be a Protestant reign. Mary has renounced Catholicism, but then secretly always stayed Catholic. So when Philip dies, the kind of natural next step is that Mary's going to become Queen of England. But the Protestants are like, no, she's Catholic. So they put Lady Jane Grey in there. And Philip actually declares her, he's on his deathbed. He actually says, I want her to be my heir. Philip, and it's very unlikely Philip did that, but Philip dies. Lady Jane Grey is declared Queen of England for 9 days. She's 16 years old. Um, Mary's supporters overthrow her, and unfortunately, Jane is put to death at 16
Ugh.
for being an absolute straw man. Like, absolutely, she had nothing to do with it. She didn't want to be queen. She just happened to be where she was born, and so this kind of begins. Mary didn't have to kill her. You know, Mary believed she had to kill her because thought she had to make a point. She does lament it. She meets with her, she talks to her, and she still puts her to death. She still beheads her. And so this begins the reign of Bloody Mary. Now, Mary is only queen for 5 years. It's important to note that her life has been incredibly difficult, and not only due to kind of deprivations that her father forced her into, because her father forced her to choose between him and her mother, and all of these things, but because she has been a Catholic at a time when it was very, very unsafe to be a Catholic. She gets into power and she immediately starts burning Protestants who don't go back to Catholicism. So she immediately is like, "Hey, hope you Protestants have enjoyed yourself for these last few years, but we're Catholic again now. And if you don't renounce that, we're coming for you." Right. Now, remember, Henry had completely decimated the church in England, and had taken all of its money and done all. So this was like the backlash. Um, uh, she literally tried to reverse the Protestant Reformation. Um, 280 Protestants in her 5 years were burned at the stake
Good
for
lord.
refusing,
Uh,
and it was never just like burning at the stake. It was always ugly. Um,
Uglier if one could imagine.
yeah, I mean, it could get really, really ugly.
Imprisonment first.
Drawn, quartering,
Jeez.
torture, because it wasn't enough that, they wanted to make the example of them, but they wanted to be like, no, you have to admit that what you did was wrong. Now, people always kind of draw out the fact, they say, well, more Catholics were burned by Elizabeth than Protestants by
It's
Mary. And it's
all
like,
bad.
yeah, but Elizabeth reigned for 45 years.
She
It
spread
was
it out.
yeah, and it was 20 more. I'm not saying any of it was good,
Yeah.
but it would have had to have been closer to 5,000, for it to be
Good
kind of
lord.
the same thing. And Mary had a very difficult, but Mary Mary sat as queen over a very dark and very dangerous time in England. She ultimately dies. She ultimately dies of I probably ovarian cancer.
Or
They didn't
uterine, I'm
really
not
know
even
what it
sure.
was. I'm sorry.
I was wondering if it was uterine because if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, tell me,
yeah.
they
I mean, it
thought
could
at
have.
first she was pregnant, and then if
And
she
that's
wasn't
happened
pregnant,
twice.
she was
She had
ill.
2 hysterical pregnancies that one maybe wasn't, maybe was a pregnancy. The other was definitely a hysterical pregnancy because it lasted, like, 14 months. I mean, it was like her husband hadn't been around for a long time, and she was, I think, 43 or 44 at the time, uh at one point, I think they said she was delivered of a wart. So in other words, a cyst or something. She actually delivered it as childbirth. And she did have all of the symptoms of pregnancy. I mean, she did. It did seem like she was pregnant, and her physicians believed it at the
I
time.
I wonder
Um
if she had, like, a pituitary tumor or something like that. I don't
Definitely
know.
something like that. Definitely something, because something was excised from her body.
Yeah.
Something did come
But I
out.
wonder if something that would give you literal symptoms beyond the distension. Anyway, I think I'm probably getting off
No,
on
I
a
mean, I
tangent, but I
definitely think
remember
she
hearing
did.
about this and thinking like, "Oh, like, what would we say today?"
She
And I
definitely
could look
did.
that up.
She definitely had, like, there were hormonal changes and things like that. So it wasn't just
Yeah,
that she believed it. There were other physical things that were happening that led her to also believe it. But also, remember, she was devout. So she had been praying, you know what I mean? Like,
praying
she
for a child.
and I will tell you, like, she, she'd had a horrible life. She was, Henry VIII's daughters were always this close to dying. They were always this close to being, cast aside. And so, and even during the 5 years that she was queen, there were multiple, rebellions and multiple things where the people were trying, and when she finally does die, I think she was 19 years older maybe
Elizabeth.
than Elizabeth. Elizabeth was 25 when she ascended to the throne. And Elizabeth was always like I said, whatever you need me to be. And they didn't have a close relationship, even though they both were absolutely enamored of their father. They were pitted against each other. Um, and their mothers obviously did not like each other all that much. Catherine of Aragon was not a huge fan of Anne Boleyn. And Anne Boleyn was stricken from the historical record. Every portrait of hers was taken down. Her name was crossed out. It was never like, oh, she was good. No, it was done. Um, but so Queen Mary has this position in English history where her reign was very short, but the impact was huge. And she really, she was called Bloody Mary because the time it was a time of really uh fear. Catholics did step up and were like, woohoo, we're back. Um and they obviously had a huge fear when Elizabeth took over, that it was going to kind of backlash back. But Elizabeth the First had said, "Listen, I have no interest in creating windows into men's souls. Just be quiet about it. Don't upset the apple cart, and I'm not coming for you." Um,
However,
yeah. I mean, she did kind of live that way because, again, she was very pragmatic. Um, but Mary was not. Mary saw herself as kind of like a flaming sword of Catholicism, and she saw herself as a holy person. And so the idea that she is the person that people are calling into blood, when they call Bloody Mary, she was known as Bloody Mary. Her era was known as that. So there's no historical reference as to why we would be doing that, except that she kind of struck um struck fear into the hearts of many people. And Bloody Mary just became kind of shorthand for any kind of horrific woman, like any kind of like
Like,
murderous.
scary and murderous.
Yeah, murderous woman. And you could see how that could become kind of the seed for a ghost story, you know. Another person that is often brought up, and you can see where this crosses over as well, is Countess Elspeth Bathory of Hungary.
Oh, okay,
She's a
yeah.
real historical figure.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how much accuracy, or historical accuracy we can put into the reports that came out of Hungary, but she is seen
Ugh,
in
ugh,
Hungary as a serial killer, and
yeah,
and she was supposed to have
ugh,
killed up to 600 young women. She
and
was
bathed in
not
their blood, correct? To
bathed in their
stay
blood,
young.
and that does come
Oof.
to us in lots of different popular cultural things. However, there's also this idea, and like, we kind of have to be careful, because history is written by the survivors and the winners, right? And so wanting to undermine the power of a woman, um, or any political figure at that time, you would do that by accusing her of certain things and making her seem unnatural. Now she was not, so she is seen as um kind of a vampire. She definitely crosses into that folklore because she was, the crimes that she's accused of are so horrific. There's
She's
also a sexual
definitely a
connotation
a
to her.
sadistic psychopath. I mean, I
Right.
think we could certainly
If
say that. If
what
she did it once,
right,
it's still bad.
right.
You know, if it's 600 people, it's just
But I would say
exponentially
if
worse.
it happened at all,
Yeah.
right? So, like, there's no evidence that
Even if
any
it's
like
only
she wasn't.
30, I don't know. I mean, still
But I
bad.
but my point though is that there's no evidence that it happened even one time, right? So, except folkloric, right? So, and also she was never convicted of anything and she wasn't killed, right? She was kept in her husband died in battle. Um and she was kept a prisoner until her death. So, it's one of these things where at the time no one talked about this, but in after she passed away, these stories became were told about and around her. And again, the stories are absolutely, horrific. And the idea that she bathed in this blood to keep
Oh,
herself
God.
young and all of these things. So, and the fact that these stories, they're just part of Western, they're just part of lore, Um, so looking at the historical story, we don't really there is no real there is a historical figure, but there's no evidence that what she's accused of having done ever actually happened. But the story did take
Yeah.
root. And so the idea that she is who we're calling when we call Bloody Mary is
Sh
definitely there.
she
Um,
seems like a better candidate for some scary person who's gonna come out of a mirror and murder you or worse. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Than Queen Mary,
Yeah, and I mean, and also remember, like, there
Mary Tudor.
may be no literal direct kind of lineage, right? There could
Yeah.
be lots of different influences. So there's also,
I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd still take my odds with Mary Tudor. Just
but I
seems
don't know
like
that
you'd
you
have a better
necessarily
chance.
call
I don't know.
she is definitely the person. So Mary Tudor is a person that was called Bloody Mary. And
Yeah.
so whatever the reference is, at some point that was it. So another was Mary Worth or Mary Wales. She is an American folklore figure. Um, she was a witch. She was described as a witch, or a woman who was killed unjustly and her ghost can be summoned by chanting her name into a mirror. So that literally is part of her folklore. In some stories, she's a murdered bride. In others, she's a witch that was burned for practicing dark magic. But the ritual to call Mary Worth is you say her name 3 times in a mirror, and you call her to you, and you can she's not gonna do your bidding, but you're gonna ask her help, like, she's a vengeful figure, and a lot of times it's, like, kinda leans into the La Llorona kind of thing, where it's like, a woman done wrong could potentially either, avenge, another somebody else who had done wrong or somebody else who had wrong done to them, um, but her story actually has the calling in the mirror. So it does seem like there's this mixture. Um, but no matter how you look at it, there was this kind of archetype that was created, which is a woman who is in some way has been wronged or in some way is vengeful, and her power comes through you reflecting in a mirror and calling to her, and the whole kind of idea of mirrors as energy amplifiers, and also as portals and conduits through which
Oh, yeah.
spirits move. Like I tend to think, like, I don't really think that Queen Mary, looking at what her psychology was like, I don't think she's sitting in a mirror looking for revenge.
I
She just
agree.
she
It's
was
not
far
queenly
more
either.
likely no, she was far more likely to be like, she had daddy issues. She really,
Big
she's
ones.
and she wasn't vengeful. She was just kind of spiteful, you know?
And
Bathory seemed
self-righteous. Like,
self-righteous, and I think her, like, I think if she had been a regular person, you would have been like, "Oh, she just is a person who had a really hard life and is mean," and is mean about it now, because there were things that she did where she could be very generous, like her servants loved her. But she also could be like, I am the right hand of God, and that's what's supposed to happen. Elspeth Bathory, I could see her coming through and just being like, "Yeah, let's get him."
I have no trouble
Yeah,
imagining
but,
that.
the thing though is, like, the one that to me, the Mary Worth one though, that kind of makes a lot more sense, because it's like, here is somebody who had wrong done to them, who, when you're calling to them, you remember, you're kinda calling them, you don't know what's gonna happen. Is she gonna come after me? Is she gonna go after the other guy? What's going on? Because even when you look at the Bloody Mary mythos, it's not like she comes and does your bidding. It's almost like you're really taking a chance here, because she could come after you, or she could come after what you want to do. And a lot of times with Bloody Mary, the only thing that's gonna happen to you is the confirmation that she exists. You're gonna see her in the
Get
mirror,
your
it's gonna scare the shit out of
wits
you,
scared about, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. 100%. So I have some thoughts and questions. I'll keep them concise because we want to make this a little bit of a not a mini-sode, but um so my thoughts are, I think a lot of times when I remember growing up when people would say, "Oh, we're going to do this," and we didn't. But the idea wasn't even, it seems not well thought out. Like you said, you don't really know what's gonna happen. Like, if somebody shows up, that's enough to scare the crap out of you and just like, "Oh my god." And I mean, I think you're so amped up as a kid or a teen doing this, you might actually see something. But that said, I've never heard anybody talk about kind of putting her back in the mirror, or
Right.
how to, like, what happens? Does she stay out? So I'm curious. I'm actually asking our listeners this because I truly want to know, has anyone actually done this? saying it 3 times, looking in the mirror. Has anyone actually seen anything like that? I know other people have done other deliberate mirror work, not that, but where they actually do they see themselves in past lives. They see spirits. Like the psychomantium, like Raymond
Just
Moody's.
trying. Mhm.
Yeah, 100%, where you are going to try to connect with someone. You may not know who it is who's going to come through. But for more of a reassurance or life after death, or to get information. But the Bloody Mary kind of, I'm gonna say, the game and the mythology, I don't think anybody really knows. Like, you have to really think about, why are you doing it, and what's the worst thing that could happen? But you can't necessarily put the genie back in the bottle. So
Well,
I'm
and I
wondering if anybody's ever done it
the
and what you
idea too
experienced, because 'cause we'll
is
share it on the show.
the idea to this too though is like, you wonder if you're successful, do we just not hear from you again? You know what I mean? Like, it also reminds me a lot of Slender Man, which is this idea that, the thing about Slender Man is once you're aware of Slender Man, he's aware of you.
Ew.
And so it's this same kind of vague, menacing thing that
Yeah.
we're not really 100% sure why would you ever do this? Except that we are we are so curious and tempted
Oh my god.
by that knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, even if we're like,
Oh,
"I don't
yeah.
believe anything," there's still that little piece of you that's like, "But what if it's true?"
Kathy,
And
I wouldn't talk to anything in your museum. I don't even like referencing blue when we're on, because I'm worried that she'll step out of the painting. So I am gonna tell you, I would not do it. I wouldn't advise anybody to do it.
I
Again, I
will
don't even like to, chat too much with the things in your museum. Like,
so
"Oh, hey, there's a so
yesterday
and so."
we had someone see a full figure here yesterday, and it's one of my staff members, and, we're gonna have them on at some point because they can all share, their stories,
Oh my god, I
uh,
would love that.
but she we were not open yesterday, but we were working because 'cause we're getting ready for Krampus, and, um, she had come in and she was actually working here at this table, and, I came downstairs to talk to her about a couple of things that we were working on, and, she goes, "Can I ask you something?" Which I know that's always code for I've had an experience, and I need you to
Oh,
talk me off
yeah.
the ledge, and I said, "Sure, sure, sure," and she goes, "Did anyone has anyone ever seen someone in this particular place?" And I was like, "Did you see a woman there?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I thought it was you." She's like, "I knew you were there, and I thought," she's like, and I was like, "Why are you running
If
away?"
you were, ghostly and in a white
Oh,
gown
no,
and
that's not it. She's like, "That's not what it looked like." And it looked solid, and it was roughly my height, and she does appear to be in something that's like a lighter color. And,
that's creepy.
and 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 she was like, and I was wondering, like, why were you running away she's like, I saw someone walk down the hall. I immediately came in, thought it was you, and was like, hey, and like, why are you running away from me? Because, that's not my style,
I don't
uh,
see you running away from people,
at
honestly.
all, right? Ever, or running at all. So she said she turned the corner to come up the stairs, and you know how it is. It's a hallway and then straight upstairs.
Yeah.
And she said, I I turned the corner and it came upstairs, and if there was a person, I would have been right on her heels, and I came upstairs to the exhibit hall, and, there was
Nothing.
nobody there, and, I hadn't been downstairs all
Yeah.
day, but that's the kind like, so you were saying you're afraid, but, like, I was like, "Oh, she must have been protecting us," We see things very differently, but I thought it would be fun to have them come on and because there's lots of stuff they don't even tell me,
No,
you
let's do
know?
it. Let's have,
Yeah,
a round table or something with them where
yeah.
they get to,
Yeah,
story night,
that would be fun.
spooky sighting night.
That would
I
be fun.
mean,
Or
my
then we could
last
get
thing,
you to look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times and
I
see
won't
if
even say it once. And my last thought on being in the Paranormal Museum, it was a total tangent from there. My mother, who's turning 81 next week,
woo-hoo.
and is not a spry 81, by the way, at all. So she's not gonna be jogging up or running through the museum either. Um, was like, "Oh, I wanna come see Kathy's museum." I'm like, "No." I just said, "Forget it." I'm like, first of all, you wouldn't get up the stairs, so
To
that
get her up the stairs.
I don't I'm not gonna exert that much effort. But, like, I just like, I will be honest with you, I don't think you are, like, physically at risk, and I know you feel fine, so I wanna be thoughtful about how I frame this, and I'll probably frame it wrong anyway, but you know that during our when we recorded our 2nd episode at the Jersey Devil Fable Festival in 2024, and everybody was outside, and it was daytime, and I went into the museum by myself to set up at the table where you're sitting, um, with my computer to edit the episode. And I'm going to tell you, in the daytime, I don't love being in there by myself. There's a feeling, definitely, like a whole bunch of feelings, just because there's a lot of energy there. That's all I'm saying. But I don't spend a lot of time focusing on any one artifact, and I've never touched any of the
Mm,
artifacts. I won't do it because I feel like I shouldn't. I could be disturbing something.
right.
So, yes, we are quite different. But so, given that, there is no chance that I'm going to look at anything, look in the mirror, say Bloody Mary. You know, I'm just letting
Listen,
you know
it's
I'm
not
low
scary
risk for that.
either. To me, it's like, you know me, like, I'm okay. Put me in, put me in transatlantic lunatic asylum, put me in any place. But I also don't believe in intentionally provoking something.
Yeah, no,
So
that's
it's
not going
like,
to happen.
if there's no positive reason to do it, then why do it?
I know.
It's like, I'm not gonna be
Agreed.
like, "Well, I want the devil to prove he exists." No, that's good.
Yeah, no,
That's good.
I'm all
You know,
set. I'm
I'm
just going
I'm
to
okay.
take
I'm
somebody's
okay
word for it.
like this. I'm okay doubting that. That's fine, you know?
So anyway, beloveds, tell us what you think. Kathy, if if anybody's gone into the paranormal museum and seen anything, definitely tell us what you think. Share what you've seen. Leave us
Yeah,
a comment
absolutely.
on YouTube at Curious Explorers Show. Explorers is plural. I'll put a link in the show notes. But if you said the Bloody Mary thing into a mirror, if you've done any kind of mirror work and something weird and creepy happened, tell us because we might share your story in an upcoming show. And Kathy, let's totally have your staff on. I totally want to hear from them.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I'll never go again.
It's
Never. But it's so good to see you.
good to see you.
So, this has been another episode of Curious Explorers. As always, if you enjoyed the show, please remember to like, share, follow, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear more of. And until next time, stay curious.
Keep exploring.
Bye for now.
Bye,
I
guys.
know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
You've just listened to the Curious Explorers podcast with the Kathy Kelly and Tracy Stein. If you enjoyed the episode, remember to like, share, follow, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. And of course, until next time, stay curious.
The paranormal is real. It is real. The paranormal.